Welcome back to the TK podcast. We are back after 2 weeks. Did not record last week. I'll tell you why. Things with the pregnancy took a little longer. I am officially a dad of two now. Welcome to the Father podcast. I'm your father. Dad life is good. Dad life is good. We're back. We have several things to talk about today. As of today, I am 10 days a dad of two children. So we'll get into that for a hot second. And yeah, there's a few other things that are going on in my life. We're excited to be back on the TK pod. This is one of my favorite things that I do. Is come here and talk to the people that listen to this, choose to follow along. Um, the last podcast you heard would have been 2 weeks ago, and that would have been, uh, oh gosh, yeah. I believe at that time I actually said there was a really good chance that at that time I was already a dad. And that is because I recorded that podcast 3 weeks ago, and we were under the impression that, uh, I mean, just by the nature of how pregnancies go and people having children, women having children go, usually your second child, your third child, they are uh, the pregnancy is not as long, right? Our first kid, Kin Diesel, she went up to 3 days before the due date. Um, and that's when we had her. The second one, we're like, okay, we'll probably be somewhere around 39 weeks then. That would have been 2.5 weeks ago from today, the drop of this podcast. She did, or he, Brooks Tate Kluver, decided to stay in not only all the way past 39 weeks, past 40 weeks. He probably would have stayed past 41 had we not been induced on that 41st week on the day of. Um, Sunday, June 1st, 3:43 PM. Brooks entered the world, and honestly, very low drama. Not a other than the excitement of having a second child, all of the things that could go wrong or potentially could make that day a little bit more volatile emotion wise. Everything stayed pretty much at bay. Induction scheduled for basically 7:30 in the morning check-in. Um, Obviously, it took 8 hours to get to the actual birth of the kid, but other than uh, the epidural taking a little bit longer for those that are aware or understand the process of birth, the epidural is the thing that it's different than a nerve block, but it's basically what numbs the lower body. It doesn't completely like I'm not quite sure how it works. In fact, I might just epidural um definition pregnancy. An epidural is a type of anesthetic that provides pain relief during childbirth by numbing the lower half of the body. There you go. So it numbs the lower half of the body. It's very strong. It goes in through your back, which is scary. Um, and to be honest, I don't. Uh, well, a whole nother story. Watching this epidural go in, um, I nearly passed out. I had to lay down on the couch, and the fucking nurse had to make me a couple pieces of toast, and get me a cold rag because I was scared that this epidural was, gonna hurt my wife. But everything was good. Um, had to manually break the water once that happened. Again, v- s- very similar to the first birth. Um, Wife is a rock star. She pushed for 3 or 4 minutes, and the baby was born. So, um, pretty cool. Healthy baby, healthy mama. Didn't have to have any extended stay in the hospital. Um, Baby passed all tests, had no issues, which is actually technically even smoother than the first time around because Kinley had uh, like a heart valve issue, or kind of a red flag that isn't uncommon and usually fixes itself, and Kinley's has fixed itself since then, but, um, yeah, I mean, it was super smooth. Second time around, the nurses and all the doctors, they because they know you're already a parent and you've been through this before, they're way less kinda nitpicky about all the details, and, like, they're just kinda like, "Yeah, we'll let you do your thing." So it was great. And I highly suggest, not that you could have any control on it, having a kid during the day instead of during the middle of the night, because getting your sleep is obviously paramount during this whole process. So being able to go and check in um, and then just have the kid by the afternoon, and you got family visiting you by that evening dinner time. Um, Very cool. No interruption to the sleep schedule. Stayed there Monday night. Woke up Tuesday and or sorry, Sunday night, woke up Monday. Um, Baby kind of has to stick around a certain amount of time before they can release him. So we had to stay Monday night as well. Um, we were out of there by, I think we left around 11 a.m. Tuesday morning. So we were there for about 48 hours. Sleeping on the hospital couch is ass. Uh, but that's okay. Brooks is pretty big little boy, 9 pounds 4 ounces at birth. Um, Kind of has frog legs, but and is not bigger and heavier than Kinley was. But when you look at him, he doesn't look like it. He's a little longer, so his frame is bigger. The weight's a little bit more evenly distributed. Kinley was a tank, um, and he's great. 10 days in, dad life of two. I'll say this. I think the early comparison between one and two is or two things. One, on the um I'm nervous to have a kid, or like do you know what you're doing, all the figuring things out. You feel so much more comfortable the second time around. um Anytime a baby makes a noise or like stops breathing, or not stops breathing, but like you can't hear 'em breathing, or they start coughing or hiccuping the first time around, you're like, oh shit, is this kid dying? Like you're just constantly worried about keeping them alive. And the second time around, like, baby starts screaming its head off because it's hungry or whatever, and you're just like, "Yeah, well, all right, go make a bottle." And it's probably just it's one of 3 things. They wanna sleep, they wanna eat, or they need to shit, basically. I mean, it's just the easiest thing. Babies are incredibly easy. Um, and there's just, like, so much less concern over, like, little stuff. It's like, "Yeah, we'll figure it out." It will and I think part of that is probably Um, you've been there, done that at this point, so there is experience. Experiences can't be bought, but there's also the side of like, we have because we've been there, done that. We have another kid that is 2.5, and we have to. It's a 50-50 split now of attention, maybe a little bit more on the baby right now since it's the first few weeks of its life, but um, there's just no time to worry about little things that don't matter when you're trying to parent another child as well. Uh, so it's been relaxed, man. It's been chill because I get to do what I get to do here at home and I work from home. It's a very uh, helpful situation to my wife. And granted, she would be on summer break right now anyway, but, or I guess, she would be on maternity leave if this happened in the middle of the school year. But regardless, having me home to be able to watch the baby or hold it for 5 minutes, or, help in the middle of the night while she's trying to pump, or we're trying to change, like, all these things. It just when you can cut the work in half and go 50-50 on stuff, it's so much easier. And I feel very, very fortunate that I make my own schedule and work for myself to be able to do that, because that would place a large stress on the dynamic if, I was working a job where I had a boss and a company and I had to be back a week later, and that would be tough. Um The other recognition early on, 10 days into being a father of 2, is that it's you you feel that pressure of the first kid, and thank God we had her mom, my mother-in-law here for the first 4-ish days to help out, um, but when that first one comes and it's just 1, and you're exhausted and you're waking up 2, 3 times minimum in the middle of the night, could be worse if you get a baby that's not compliant, and luckily we've had 2 that pretty much are. Um, you can kinda use the in between times, like when they're not crying and you're not having to feed them, to just lay on your ass and take naps yourself or rest if you don't get good sleep in the middle of the night. Oh, excuse me, there's a yawn. Tired. If you don't get good sleep in the middle of the night, you can kinda catch up on it during the day, and, with 2 kids, you have one that's now a toddler. Holy shit. I mean, I for example, like, kids' schedule can kinda get off, right? Like, it's every 2 to 3 to 4 hours that they're waking up and they're hungry again, and they need changed, and when you just have 1 and the baby's all you gotta worry about, cool, that schedule can happen whenever, and you're both home and you have no obligations for that day but to take care of the kid, you can just if they happen to wake up at 5, cool. Put them back down, you can get another 3 hours, start your day at 8. If they wake up at 4, you could start your day at 7. If they wake up at 6, you could start your day at 9 and go for another 3-hour cycle there, right? But now, like this morning, our older child has a schedule. She's got and, we're sending her to, like, a little school daycare this summer, which helps during the day to take some of that stress off, but she has to wake up, she's gotta eat breakfast, get dressed, get her stuff together. That all starts around 6:30. So if the baby wakes up at 5 and then it takes 20 to 30 minutes to feed and change, it's now 5:30. You're up. You're not getting another hour of sleep. Um, or 2 or 3 hours of sleep because you gotta be up at 6:30 anyway. So you really have to finagle it and try and get the most when you can. And I think the big thing is not that we're really struggling. I am a little bit more tired. I have less energy to train. We'll get to the training that I've been doing here in a second. Um, but I think mentally, the way you have to approach it is it's just a phase. And it's a phase that has a pretty, especially after going through one child, you kind of know how long each of these phases last. And in the grand scheme of things, you're actually gonna look back and wish you could do this again. You wish you had the time when they were this small little squishy baby and they're just cute as can be. Again, going back to that, I think we talked about this either 1 or 2 pods ago. You're gonna go back and wish that, you know, eh, when I'm currently 30 years old, when I'm 60 and my kids are 30, I'm gonna go if I had, like, this magical opportunity to come back to the moment where my 2nd child was born and Kinley was a 2.5-year-old, I would, take that moment, I would take that chance in a heartbeat, and so you kinda have to understand the perspective and just enjoy it and understand that it's going to end at some point, and it's gonna get easier, and you're gonna get more sleep, and the baby's gonna go down for longer and all that stuff, so, um yeah, that's kinda where we're at as a father of 2, 10 days in. Other than that, it's really not that exciting. The baby eats, and then it lays there, and it's either awake laying there or it's asleep laying there. It's not doing anything else. It requires almost nothing other than, um, snuggles and food. It's so easy compared to, like, the toddler. Um, and seeing, Kinley become a big sister and all that, is a special moment, and that's very fun. So, uh, yeah, here we are. It's the summer of 25. We're parents of 2, family of 4. Life is incredibly good, and we're surviving on the front of on that front of surviving. How is the rest of life going? Always a big question, big topic is, gosh, I'm a parent, I have a career, especially around the time when you have a newborn. How are you getting your training in? How do you find the time to work out still? How do all these things? How do you still eat clean? All this stuff. And aside from the easy answer of like you have to build that base and that discipline over time, and then it's just there for you to fall back on. Um, the answer is it is tougher, right? That is the whole shtick. You know, when I'm on 6 hours of sleep, that's broken up and not great, versus a solid 8 straight um, that we were on before the baby came around. When you go to train at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you don't have as much juice. That battery just isn't charged as much as it usually is. Again, that isn't going to last forever. Um, the fact that I am getting training in on the same frequency that I was pre-baby is a massive win, and is a massive win for anybody, no matter if it's your first or your, well, it's more impressive as you have more kids. Um, let's see. I did my lap because we were induced. I was able to train all the way up through the Saturday before we went in. Sunday, I did not train. It would have been a fully off day anyway, so I wasn't missing anything. Monday, I did not do. Uh, Monday, I did not do anything because we were in the hospital. Well, no, that's not true. Monday, actually, middle of the day, kind of middle of the morning, I did a 16-minute body weight EMOM in the hospital room. So I wouldn't count that as a training day or even really a workout. It was more of just like a let's get the blood moving because we'd just been sitting in a hospital room for 24 hours. But if you want to get it done, you can get it done. The EMOM was 4-minute cycle for 4 rounds, 16 total minutes. Minute one, 15 air squats. Minute two, 15 push ups. Minute three, 15 V ups. Minute four, 12 burpees. 4 time cycle through that. Um, we came home on Tuesday. I did not do anything on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, I was back at it. So, legitimately missed basically 2 days of training and was still able to move for 20 minutes on one of those days. It's very doable. It's very doable. How am I doing it now that we've gotten into a little bit more of a routine being home for a week? Um, I'm right back to where we were. As far as volume goes, it's much less. Right now, the kid is still gone at daycare, so we don't have to worry about Kinley, um, nap time or anything like that. The baby, as I mentioned, all she or he does is sleep pretty much all the time. So really, I could train for as long as I wanted to. I could be doing all the volume in the world right now. Uh, but again, you're tired. I'm trying to catch up on some work stuff after being out of commission work wise for 3-4 days. And so right now, volume is anywhere between 60 and 90 minutes a day. And I am choosing the things out of the training that's programmed that I want to do, the things that I would like to do, the things I'm going to enjoy the most and are going to get me to give me the most effort towards them. Right now, for the last week, that has looked like a lot of lifting. Um, I feel like lifting for me is almost, even if I'm tired, I've got a newborn, like out of everything, I can lift. I feel compelled to lift weights. Uh, Kind of a crazy highlight of the last week since coming home. Um, God, was it Saturday? I think it was Saturday. So 4 days ago, literally 6 days after having a newborn baby, 3 days after getting back into the routine, I hit a lifetime PR snatch. What? Let me say that again. I hit a lifetime PR snatch after dropping volume for the last month after semifinals went down the drain, and we've been preparing for this baby, and now I take 3 days off for the kid and volume's backed off, and I out of nowhere, the most I've ever snatched is 265. It could be 260. I actually want to say it's 260. Snatch was programmed on Saturday. You're supposed to do like 6 heavy doubles and keep moving up in weight. I got to 245 and I hit 245 pretty good for a double, and I thought, "You know what? Why not go for a PR?" Right? Let's push that 255, 260 range again and see where I can go. Haven't done it in a while. Let's just see. Because 245 felt good. And we hit 255 like fairly easy. Like I would call it a casual 255. Like, okay. So I threw 265 on, hit 265. That made me feel really good because I knew that either tied or set a 5-pound PR all time. Didn't know if I could make the jump to 275, which is not only a 10-pound jump at the top of you know, a, um, a range, but it's also a plate change. It's two big boys and a 25, which mentally is just this kind of block for a lot of people when you lift. So I hit 270 PR, threw 275 on, hit 275 PR, was gonna stop there, and then I said, "You know what? Fuck that. You don't stop on a day like this until you miss." Threw 280 on, hit that. Finally missed at 285, and I don't know if it was because I'm fairly certain it was because I was tired and my legs and my pole and everything was just starting to fatigue rather than I can't do that weight. Um, so a 15 to 20 pound PR lifetime snatch, 280. Um, a number that is like pretty respectable, even amongst like people who snatch. Really, really happy with that. Like that's a respectable number. It it's a good number if I was at like a elite level CrossFit competition and I threw up a 280 snatch, maybe it's 285 in competition, people would look at that and go, "Good snatch." Not great, but good. And that feels good to be like, you know, I'm relatively competitive at an elite level because strength, not necessarily like my forte. It's just in the past year that I've started to hit like some pretty respectable or at least relatively competitive marks. I pulled 460 on a deadlift a couple months ago. I power cleaned 335. Um, Depending on how my front squat's feeling or where I'm at with my squatting cycle, that means I can get under 350, 355 on a clean. Can I stand it up? That's another story. Obviously, I snatched 280. Um, so, you know, our numbers are where we'd like them to be. Um, and to PR something that I haven't PR'd in a couple years. I want to say 18 months. I think it was around the winter of 23 to 24 that I PR'd my snatch last. 6 days after having a kid, just completely out of nowhere. Now, so that's what my trainings look like. That segues us into, oh, you PR'd your snatch. Um, Maybe some of that is because your boy's gotten a little fluffy with the pregnancy and my wife pretty much just eating whatever feels good. And in turn, me joining her. And the result of that pretty much being ice cream all the time and foods that are tasty and high caloric all the time. Your boy's thrown on a couple extra pounds. We were trying to compete during the season around that 200 mark. I think I was 199, 201, maybe 202 the other day, and it was definitely an outlier because I was immediately back down to like 203. But I stepped on the scale around the time we came home from having the kid, and I think it said 208.7, almost 209. So mass moves mass, right? So we're a little heavy right now. We're not as lean. We're not doing as much conditioning. Our diet is not nearly as locked in, but that's the phase, right? That's where we're at in life. We just had a new kid. It's the beginning of the off season relative to the CrossFit year, and that's where we get to be. I remember last year at this time again, I just got the memories popped up on my phone. Um, we were my wife and I took a vacation, just me and her, down to 30A, Rosemary Beach in Florida. And I didn't train or work out for like an entire 2 weeks, maybe a month. I don't know if I worked out for the entire month of June last year. Um, and then, I remember this feeling of like, oh my God, I'm so out of shape. I'm never going to, there's no way that by next year I'm going to be able to get back. And the reality is like you can get back in shape in a month, maybe 2 months, and you can get back to wherever your peak was if you really dial it in. And mentally, I'm kind of there right now. I'm like, oh my God, I'm only doing like one or two lifts a day, maybe one Metcon a day if I get it. And I feel out of shape. But then, you know, PRing a snatch just before the pregnancy. I'm doing some of the TFX qualifiers and putting out really good times on that. It's not like all that just goes away. So mentally you have to battle that. You're not doing as much volume, but you're really not losing as much ground as you think. You might even still be able to maintain or get better in some things, and clearly some of the results are showing us that. Um, there's some other things to talk about, but that is all that we're going to talk about today. I will say, after I recorded the last couple podcasts, the end of that week, I did go disc golfing. We went to, um, I was able to sneak in the Friday before the birth and do a round at Waterford Disc Golf, which is a nice little 13-hole course, about maybe 3 miles northwest of us here in Waukee. And I think I went -4 or -5 on the day. Lost one disc that honestly was a karma kind of thing. It's a disc that I shouldn't be throwing in the first place. Like a 14 speed, way too fast, not broken in. Um, just threw it right into the water, and a hole that I've lost like 5 discs on. Uh, but recovered well on that shot, was the only stroke that I had to take all day. And without that, I freaking go like -6, which is a PR on that course. Um, so I feel like my disc golf game is actually decently dialed, even though I don't play that much. I know my bag really well, which is important. And I will, as I've said, continue to try and get as many rounds in this year as possible. But for the last 2 weeks, having the kid and all that stuff, where we haven't been able to go. Gonna make a trip up to Ankeny to play Heritage with my brothers soon because that's a really fun 18-hole course, and we'll try to get to all the different ones around Iowa. Pickard, Ewing, all the nice ones, Southwoods. Um, yeah, we're gonna try and hit them all. And again, I do think I'm gonna try and play that Marshalltown tournament. We'll see what the summer looks like, but that's kind of where things are at. Next episode, because we're 30 minutes into this one. Next episode, we are going to talk about sort of what this new business looks like. Every single day, we are, my brothers and I basically 5 weeks ago decided let's dip our toe in gradually to maybe starting our own lawn care business. And all three of us being involved and helping and trying to take different parts of it and just kind of gradually grow it. And today, as actually right now, Zach is at a property, one of our first properties, mowing. And either after that or maybe even before this, he is trying to grab our fifth property um, in 5 weeks. So we're averaging sort of one property gained per week, which is pretty good, especially because we're late in the season. Like we started this in basically May. And you probably want to start this kind of stuff in March, before the season starts, as far as like mowing and cleanup and landscaping and all that stuff. So, our goal right now is, at least my goal for this year, is to get 10 clients. But there's a whole lot of different stuff that's going into this business and stuff that we've already done. All the way to like logo design and all the research I've done on mowers and trailers and um, you know, merchandise for the brand and all this different stuff that we're getting up off the ground right now, and the potential of where this thing goes, and how that fits into like my personal business strategy and my being an entrepreneur, and how it meshes with the podcast stuff that I do and the personal training stuff that I do. So, a lot going on. We'll talk about that next week because it deserves its own episode. And yeah, that's it. Glad you guys could join me for a little update. We'll be back next week. Till then, peace.